This video is just one part of a complete set of videos called Making Effective Selections, and here we're going to take a look at the pen tool. I do get asked about the pen tool quite a bit, but I'm not sure it's that relevant to us as photographers. If this pen tool never existed, I think there's still plenty more that we would be quite happy with. Whenever the subject of the pen tool has come up at a demonstration, I get the feeling that many people seem to worry that they're missing something, that maybe there's a hidden tool, option or trick in Photoshop that they just need to know about, and once they do, their photography will take off. Now, I'm sorry to be the bringer of bad tidings, but that's not likely to happen. Perhaps we should ask ourselves as photographers, what do we want to use the pen tool for? To what purpose? Now, for us photographers, I think it's more likely to be used for making a cutout of a subject from an image. But unless that subject is a really fussy subject from a fussy background, I'm not sure the pen tool gives us any benefit over many of the others. Perhaps it's just a different option. Let me explain with a short demonstration. Now, I'd like to make a start by zooming in pretty tight to the top of this panel here, and we can select the pen tool from the toolbox. I'm not going to do an in-depth video here for two very good reasons. One, I don't have the experience to be able to do it because I don't use the pen tool myself on a day-to-day basis, and I'm not sure you'd like to sit through an entire 30-minute video as we go through every single option. But it sits there on the toolbox, so we do need to just take a brief look. I'm going to make a start by just clicking, and we leave an anchor point right on the edge. Now I can move a short distance away, and if I click at this point and drag, you can see that using the handles that I'm dragging out, I can wrap my path around that curve. I can go further around the curve, click again and drag, and do the same there, and I can gradually work round a curved surface doing much the same. If I get things slightly wrong, I can touch the control key and I can move the anchor points, so I can correct the path I'm creating, and I can adjust the curve, and I can go around an entire subject, and let's just assume that I've done that because I don't think we need to do it fully. And when I join up at the start, I can make a selection from the path that I've created. Now, just before I do that, there are one or two options. I've already got path selected here as opposed to shape, and here I've got a couple of options. If we did want to use the pen tool, we can change the color of the line that you can see I've just created and the thickness, so if we're working on a dark image we can have a lighter line and vice versa. We also get the opportunity to see the path that I've created. If I go to my Windows menu, I can open up my paths palette. There you can see the path. If I slip it in over on the right hand side, there we can see the work path we have. If we go to the right of the work path and right click, you can see I can make a selection from here amongst other things, but I can do it from within the path I've made on the picture as well. So right click, make a selection. Usual choices: feather radius, anti-aliased, new selection, OK to that. Well, you can see how we could use this to go around the curved edges of this particular panel. But of course there are many other tools which would have done that a lot quicker. So this image isn't a good example perhaps. Now you'll notice that even though I've created a selection which I can remove with Control D, my work path stays in place. And if I save my image and retrieve it again, the path will be there for me to select, right click and make a selection. We can always remove the work path by just highlighting it, right clicking and choosing delete, or we can drag it down over the bin at the bottom right of this particular window, and of course Control D would remove the selection. If we was going to remove this panel from its background, there's much quicker ways we can do this. So I can't see any circumstances where the pen tool is going to do a better job than perhaps the polygonal lasso, the layer mask technique that I've demonstrated, quick mask, or even the quick selection tool. It's just a different way to achieve the same end result. So it's a personal choice of which tools you settle on to do which jobs. We can use it though very similar to the polygonal lasso. Let me demonstrate with this old car. I'm going to zoom in to the bonnet pretty tight and select my pen tool, because we can use this, as I said, in a similar way that we would with the polygonal lasso. I can click to leave an anchor point, but rather than use that method to create curves, I'm just going to move a short distance and click, 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 and do much the same as I've demonstrated already with the polygonal lasso, that on straight edges we can take quite large jumps. So as we move down the bonnet we can do that fairly quickly. Now that was a bit of a mistake. I think I've drifted off a little bit. Two choices. We either wait until later when we've got a mask in place, or you just hit Ctrl Z to undo it and redo that step. But I'm working here pretty quickly, so let's work up the outer edge there to the edge of the mirror. Now I'm going to drag this down into a better position, and I'm also going to use that rotate tool because I'm at the wrong angle here to go around there, I think. So I'm going to just move it around, reselect the tool, and I can go around in short steps. I think you get the idea. I'm going to make the assumption that you have already watched the polygonal lasso tool video. So we would go around the outer edge of our subject. I suppose the main difference between this method and the polygonal lasso tool is that we don't have to save it as we go. We would save the image, of course, but when we open this back up, the path is halfway done and we could pick up and continue a little bit later. But given it takes only seconds to save a selection and then add one to another, there's no great advantage in my view. If you wanted to practice making those curves, because it does take a little practice, you can do it on a new blank canvas, of course. We can click, move a short distance, click and drag, and make the curve shape. And you can see by the handle I can adjust that shape by how far I drag it and how far I pull it and push it. You soon get a feel for that. And if I go down to here, there you can see I can produce another curve from there. And I think when you start to work on a new blank canvas like this, you can probably appreciate where this may be more the domain of the graphic artist rather than the photographer. But it is another tool which we have in our armory.